Table salt, it costs less than $1, never expires, and doubles as one of the greatest medical interventions in human history. This is table salt, an ultra-refined crystal built to dissolve instantly and hit your tongue with a sharp, aggressive burn. To get it, miners inject high-pressure water deep into underground salt beds, pumping the resulting brine to the surface to be boiled dry in colossal industrial vacuums. Most table salt sold today is iodized. That's because, in the 1920s, iodine deficiency was causing widespread goiters and developmental problems worldwide. Adding iodine to salt became one of the cheapest, most effective public health interventions in history. Kosher salt. Kosher salt didn't get its name because it's blessed. Jewish dietary law requires meat to be drained of blood before it's kosher, and coarse flaky salt is unusually good at pulling that blood out. So it became koshering salt. That is, salt used to kosher meat, not the other way around. But there's a second problem. Morton's kosher salt is flat and dense, while Diamond Crystal is hollow and dramatically lighter by volume. That means a teaspoon of one isn't equal to a teaspoon of the other. So recipes that don't specify the brand can genuinely wreck a dish's saltiness. Sea salt. Sea salt is made by evaporating seawater, which means its final texture and mineral content depend entirely on where that seawater came from and how it was evaporated. The off-white, gray, or cream colors you see in high-quality sea salt are direct physical evidence of the specific ocean water it came from. Ocean water off different coastlines carries different ratios of magnesium, calcium, and potassium, which is why sea salt from Brittany tastes nothing like sea salt harvested off Portugal or Australia. These differences also actively soften the salt, giving it a much rounder, less aggressive sting on your tongue. Rock salt. Right now, hundreds of feet beneath the bustling streets of Detroit, Michigan, lies a massive, sprawling 1,500-acre network of active highway-sized tunnels most drivers have no idea exists. Rock salt, or halite, is mined directly from underground deposits with almost no processing. It's the raw, fossilized remains of prehistoric oceans that evaporated hundreds of millions of years ago. Chemically, it's identical to table salt. However, in its raw, freshly blasted state, rock salt is loaded with clay, shale, and mineral impurities that make it unfit for food use without heavy refining. Because of that texture, most rock salt in the world isn't even used in kitchens. It's spread on icy roads and sidewalks since the coarse crystals lower the freezing point of water efficiently and melt ice fast. Himalayan pink salt. This might be the most photographed salt on the internet. For starters, Himalayan pink salt does not come from the pristine snowy peaks of Mount Everest or the high Himalayas. Virtually every pink crystal on Earth is mined from the Kura salt mine, one of the largest and oldest salt mines on Earth, located in a dry, dusty set of hills in Pakistan. The pink color comes from trace amounts of iron oxide, which is quite literally rust. Now, this will disappoint a lot of people. Despite the wellness marketing, Himalayan salt is not meaningfully more nutritious than table salt. The trace minerals are present in amounts too small to matter for human health. You're just paying a premium for the color and story. Bolivian rose salt. If you want a naturally pink salt that is actually pristine, you have to look high up into the Andes Mountains of South America, where a literal geological fossil is hand-mined from volcanic rock. This is Bolivian rose salt, a highly sought-after mineral prized for its incredibly mild and gentle flavor. Millions of years ago, this region held a vast inland sea. That sea dried out, and over time, volcanic lava flows sealed the resulting salt bed underground. That lava cap protected the deposit from modern pollution almost completely. The salt is still carried out of these high-altitude mine shafts by hand today. Trace iron and potassium give it its distinct soft rose color. Because the crystals were formed under intense geological pressure, they are incredibly dense and release a smooth, clean saltiness that lacks the harsh, biting edge of standard table salt. Mara salt. Clinging to the steep cliffs of a breathtaking Peruvian canyon is a dazzling patchwork of over 3,000 hand-built clay pools that have been harvesting salt long before the Inca Empire even existed. This is the home of Maras salt, a highly coveted pink finishing mineral. The entire operation is fed by a single subterranean spring that runs hot and heavily saturated with salt from deep within the Andes. Local families manage individual terraced pools, channeling the warm, salty water into the shallow clay basins. The intense, high-altitude Andean sun then evaporates the water over several weeks, leaving behind a thick, sparkling crust of mineral-rich pink salt. The resulting salt is incredibly complex and carries an earthy mineral flavor. Fleur de sel? Some salt gets scraped up, this one gets caught before it ever sinks. Fleur de sel means flour of salt. It's skimmed by hand off the very top of the water's surface using flat, wooden rakes, where a paper-thin crust forms only under a narrow window of wind, sun, and low humidity. On a bad weather day, harvesters can get nothing at all. Some seasons produce almost no usable crop. That fragility, plus hand raking, is exactly why it's one of the most expensive finishing salts in the world. Because of its price, it's strictly used as a finishing touch over dark chocolate or warm caramel, where its moist, irregular crystals deliver a spectacular, crunchy pop. Sel gris, Celtic salt, while its delicate sibling, fleur de sel, floats gracefully on top of the water. This heavy, mineral-dense salt sinks straight to the muddy floor of the French marshes. This is sel gris, or Celtic gray salt, a coarse, moist seasoning from the same Brittany marshes in France. Its light gray hue comes from the clay lining the bottom of the traditional harvesting ponds, which the crystals pick up as they form. The ancient Celtic harvesting process, still used today, relies on skilled workers who manually rake the wet crystals from the bottom of the pools. Unlike most finishing salts, sel gris is never artificially dried or processed, which is why it retains a highly noticeable damp and clumpy texture. Because of this natural moisture, sel gris does not instantly melt when sprinkled onto hot, juicy steaks. It holds its shape, providing a bold, deeply savory and lingering oceanic crunch. Flake salt. Listen closely when you bite into a gourmet chocolate chip cookie or a perfectly seared steak, and you might hear a distinct, delicate crunch. That sound belongs to flake salt. It's defined by its shape, large, thin, irregular crystals that shatter into a satisfying crunch rather than dissolving instantly. The most famous producer is Maldon, a family-run operation in Essex, England, that's been making salt using the same basic method since 1882. Seawater from the Blackwater estuary is drawn in on the spring tide, then slowly evaporated in pans over controlled heat until pyramid-shaped crystals form on the surface. That hollow structure is what gives Maldon its signature crunch. It's hand-harvested and hand-checked, batch by batch before packaging. Flake salt was never meant to be cooked with, only added seconds before food hits the plate. Halen Mon. In 1997, a married couple living on the Welsh island of Anglesey boiled a simple saucepan of seawater on their home stove just to see what would happen, and accidentally birthed a world-famous luxury brand. Today, Halen Mon is one of the most highly protected salts on Earth. The water used to make these crystals is drawn from the Menai Strait, a narrow tidal channel known for its exceptionally clean, mineral-rich current. After evaporation, the resulting salt is so unique that in 2014, it achieved protected designation of origin status from the European Union, the same legal category that protects champagne in France. No other producer anywhere is legally allowed to sell salt under the Halen Mon name unless it's genuinely harvested from those exact Welsh waters. Kalanamak, pop open a jar of Kalanamak, and anyone standing in the room will immediately swear that you just cracked open a fresh, hard-boiled egg. This is Indian black salt, a highly pungent, sulfurous mineral heavily used across South Asian street food. It comes primarily from volcanic regions across South Asia, and despite its name, the whole crystals are actually a dark violet-purple color, only turning a soft, dusty pink once they're ground into a fine powder. The intense egg-like aroma is caused by hydrogen sulfide, a natural sulfur compound trapped deep within the crystal structure as a result of a grueling traditional firing process. This eggy smell makes it a staple ingredient in vegan cooking and is used specifically to mimic the taste and smell of eggs in dishes, like tofu scrambles. Hawaiian red alea salt. To the ancient Hawaiians, this striking, brick-red mineral was never viewed as a simple kitchen seasoning. It was a highly sacred spiritual tool used to purify canoes, bless new homes, and perform healing rituals. This is alea salt, a traditional sea salt highly regarded in Hawaiian culture. The vibrant red color is created by mixing natural sea salt with a highly specific local volcanic clay called alea, which is loaded with iron oxide. It's a vital ingredient in traditional island cooking, specifically for dishes like kalua pig and poke. The red clay infuses the salt with a subtle, earthy, and slightly sweet flavor while keeping roasted meats incredibly moist. Hiwakai. Hiwakai, or Hawaiian black lava salt, is Hawaiian sea salt blended with activated charcoal, traditionally from burned coconut shells. It has glossy, pitch-black crystals that deliver a massive, satisfying crunch. This charcoal coating gives the salt its stark, midnight black color, though it adds almost no flavor except for a very subtle, earthy undertone. It forms a striking contrast in Hawaiian cooking when sprinkled over white fish, pale scallops, or sliced heirloom tomatoes. Persian blue salt. Persian blue salt might be the rarest salt most people have never heard of. It comes from a single mountain range in Iran's Semnan province, formed over 100 million years ago when ancient inland seas evaporated and were sealed underground. The blue color comes from sylvanite, a potassium mineral trapped under enormous geological pressure that bends light differently as it passes through the crystal. Only a few tons are extracted worldwide per year, which is why it can sell for far more per gram than most gourmet salts. On the tongue, it hits you with an aggressive, sharp burst of saltiness that vanishes almost instantly, leaving behind a surprisingly mild, sweet, and slightly citrusy finish. Korean bamboo salt. If you want to buy a single small jar of this salt, you need to be prepared to spend close to $100. This is Korean bamboo salt, or jugyum. To get it, sea salt gets packed into bamboo stalks, sealed with clay, and roasted in a pine-fired kiln near 800 degrees Celsius. Then the bamboo burns away, and the process repeats up to 9 times. The final roast is even hotter. The temperature is pushed past 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, causing the salt to melt into a liquid before it cools into a dense purple-gray block that barely resembles where it started. This produces the highest grade of bamboo salt. Amabito no Moshio. Moshio may be one of the earliest salts ever made in Japan, dating back roughly 2,500 years, until the method disappeared for centuries. In the 1980s, archaeologists found ancient salt-making pottery on a small island in Japan's Seto Inland Sea, and researchers rebuilt the original recipe from those fragments. To make it, ancient people boiled seawater together with wild sargassum seaweed, which adds natural umami and mellows the salt's sharpness. Today, it's a highly prized finishing salt that makes plain rice, tempura, and even dark chocolate taste incredibly deep and complex. Aguni salt. Out on the tiny remote volcanic island of Aguni in Okinawa, craftsmen make salt using a process that sounds more like a modern art installation than food manufacturing. This is Aguni salt, a highly prized artisanal mineral. To start, clean seawater is pumped to the top of a 10-meter cinder block tower and allowed to trickle down through tens of thousands of hanging bamboo branches. As the coastal wind and sun pass through the open tower, they naturally evaporate the water, leaving behind a highly concentrated brine. This dripping process is repeated constantly for over a week until the water is 6 times saltier than the open ocean. The concentrated brine is then simmered slowly in an iron pan for around 2 full days and stirred continuously by hand. Because Aguni Island has zero industrial pollution, the seawater is exceptionally pure, resulting in a finished salt that is roughly 15% pure trace minerals, giving it a sweet, savory flavor.